Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome again with this interview in the frame of the ECSEL Joint Undertaking Symposium 2021. Today we have the great pleasure to have with us Jean-Luc di Paola-Galloni. He is the president of the Artemis Industry Association, and he is also, in that respect, chairman of the private members board of the ECSEL Joint Undertaking. Jean-Luc, very welcome.
Good afternoon to you, Bert, and to the viewers of the symposium.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. We are going to go through this interview with a couple of questions, which maybe we always wanted to know, but maybe afraid to ask. And maybe to start off with, first question is on the merge of the two joint undertakings in 2014. When we started in 2014 with ECSEL, we had the ENIAC joint undertaking and the Artemis joint undertaking with the both associations related to that. In 2014, we merged them and we brought EPOS, the Smart System Integration Community, along. And now we have three associations starting from two joint undertakings and combining the different fields: software, hardware, system integration. My question to you as president of the private members board, did we succeed in really merging these two joint undertakings, three associations into one, how to say, community?
Well, indeed, I do think we did, because the very first analysis on what you're mentioning, which goes back to more than 7 years ago, is indeed related to this, I would say, analysis, is that the ecosystem of the entire electronic component and system value chain really needed to be integrated in one, I would say, team, in one big project. And indeed, this has happened, and this has been, I would say, clearly a big success of the pillar of ECSEL. And obviously, from the association point of view, it has been a very interesting adventure to bring together ENEAS, EPOS, and Artemis from the nanomicro, the smart system integration, and the software with embedded systems associations all together. I think these elements of this value chain and this entire ecosystem have learned throughout the ECSEL years to work better together. We decided to have one common strategic research innovation agenda, and we also signed in one of, indeed, the ECSEL Symposium in Lisbon in 2018, a memorandum of understanding. Bear with me, I am relatively new in the systems. I've joined the process when it was already started, only between 3 and 4 years ago, but I can really testify that this process is ongoing, for sure. There are, I would say, some challenge of human understanding, maybe in some of the members that are still, I would say, very embedded in their area of specialty. But clearly, they have understood that there is a beginning of much higher interdependence, where they need to understand what they owe one from another, what they need to get one from another. And indeed, I would say this has been the importance of bringing together in those 7 years a program like ECSEL. And this is really something quite unique with the diversity of the member countries in Europe, the Commission, and the different levels of the private members, whether you have SMEs, bigger industry, spin-off of laboratories, RTOs, universities, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Happy to hear that at least we have accomplished that part of the mission of the ambition. Now, in the ECS, the electronic components and systems, often are called key enabling technologies. We are enabling many of the applications, and to that respect, during the activity of the Lighthouses, we have trying to link with other communities, with other ecosystems. So do you see this as the next step in merging or synergies with other technological fields?
Yes, I think the idea of bringing and defining these lighthouses have been a very inspirational, I would say, idea. I think that these lighthouses need to be reinforced, particularly in consistency of the kind of messages through the projects that they want to bring. First of all, I think it's very important because they represent a complementarity to other programs or other types of partenariats in the European Commission, according to their fields. They are in mobility, in medical field, in smart manufacturing, smart living. And this needs to be, I would say, even more enhanced in the future. I would say under ECSEL, it has been the beginning of it. So they have built communities of interlinks. But I would say the challenge ahead is to bring more consistency with the backing of all the stakeholders of the joint undertaking. Indeed, what I think it's also to bring the importance of what can be commonly done. And for example, in the entire value chain, there are really the field related to the electronic components and the smart system and the software that are the fields of such a GU like ECSEL. And then that further applications are the field of other partenariats to which we need to be interlinked. And we need to find the right complementarity, but also the right level of consistency. Where are the boundaries between one partenariat to the other? That we open the concept of the Lighthouses Initiative according to the thematical aspects of what kind of further bridges could be done in the field of health, in the field of smart manufacturing, the field of mobility. But indeed, we need to bring even, I would say, a little more consistency in this openness and in this link. First of all, as you know, I am very much in favor that there could be even some passages between different GUs where some relevant topics could be, I would say, shared or more, I would say, entangled together. The other thing is that there is also still a need, I would say, in continuing this path of knowing and sharing better this interdependence process, like I said. From many actors of research, from the, I would say, the nano-micro sphere, it is very much important that they realize that their, I would say, innovation results is engaging in a very important way all the application side of software and in the different thematic field. So sometimes even in the process of building a common strategic research, we still need to deepen this process, to deepen this, I would say, proficiency in working together and in feeling that we are completely interdependent through an ecosystem and value-added procedures.
Very correct indeed. But what we have seen in the past, let's say, Corona pandemic and the whole situation with the lockdown, is that we were, I have to say, very depending on the full supply chain of all the digital medical technologies and also the digital technologies. And that becomes, how to say, even more a crucial question, whether we in Europe, related to the ECS technologies, electronic components and systems, we should be self-reliant, perfectly self-reliant or sovereign, or do we have to work on our full supply chain, which is worldwide? So you have somewhat the two sides of the coin. Yeah. So how far do we have to go self-reliance? How far do we rely on a worldwide supply chain? What is the right or the correct balance, or what are considerations for taking the right balance?
From my point of view, first of all, I do share, I would say, this analysis that clearly this pandemic has revealed certain clear weaknesses in our continent. And those weaknesses had and still are to be, I would say, corrected, also in securing where we want to go with the different applications that we need to achieve. This being said, I think that, first of all, we need really to work more on a medium long term, how to fulfill what are the missing bricks and particularly going back in what is needed on the nano micro and the different chain upstream. But on the other hand, I do think that for our continent, as you mentioned it, we are a global player. We need to be very careful on how we want to bring our strategy ahead in the different alliances that we want to build with actors outside Europe. And also I remember here for all the actors that many of our members are not just European. They are European in, I would say, an exercise dedicated to collaborative research in our continent and with the help of the member states and the European Commission. But they are global players. So we need to be very careful and to bring ahead, particularly for the next type of partenariat, that their strategy not only fulfills what are the European needs, but also reinforce what is European inside in their fight in expanding their businesses and their research capabilities from Europe to the rest of the world. And I do think that probably there is a new age to rethink what was the concept, for example, of a few commissions ago, when we insisted very much in research in keeping a Europe open. I think we need to keep a certain level of openness, remove probably what has been too much of naivety around, but clearly also reinforce some willingness to be challenging when we want to achieve and address certain positions outside of our continent. So the global context should be very much taken in account, not only by our members that are exposed to it on a business day by day, but also by the public authorities and by the European Commission that are obviously extremely important partners as public authority boards.
Correct. I believe we do need to, analyze very carefully and strategically on how all the value chains and the alliances are to be set up in order to secure Europe's, self-reliance. Yeah, that doesn't mean perfectly independence, but self-reliance. Now, on the other side, what we sometimes see, especially in our sector, is that not everything is happening in a very friendly way. Yeah, the mergers and acquisitions, which are happening at the global scale, are taking away the most interesting IP which we have built up here in Europe, and some of the recent histories have indicated this. How could we protect ourselves better in such a buying and selling environment, or taking stock in some of our top-notch companies, and how could European investment plan or any policy related help us in that? How can we protect what we have better?
Well, first of all, I think we need to praise and recognize that the European Commission has set up since many years, many, I would say, institutional and juridical tools to protect ourselves. And often we forget to really pay a big respect as a progress, but they really need to be implemented. For example, certain limits where we don't accept a lack of compliance outside of our continent, to install the right level of barriers in terms of environmental protection. Indeed, also a good comprehensive use of GDPR in a reasoned way is extremely useful as a tool to protect ourselves, because it's protecting indeed not only our individual values, but also our corporate way of working in this business, I would say, context, particularly related to companies in digitalization. This being said, we also need to make sure that we are not cutting the grass under our feet when we are missing, I would say, an important element that is outside of Europe and that we need to use it. Yes, on medium long term, we need to find a path to build this missing element and try to reinforce the value chain within the continent, but we also need in an immediate secured way, how to build the right alliance with potentially a non-European partner to secure certain other extremely strategic aspects of the value chain of the digitalization. And this indeed, it is, we have to reconcile a certain wisdom. And I refuse to think that some companies or some attitudes should be schizophrenic. It's just that we need to manage at the same time a short-term resilience in order to secure these strategic pieces of business. And on the same time, we need to use the continuation of ECSEL to build on medium long term the missing pieces that we may analyze and that are extremely strategic to fulfill and complete and secure this value chain, this ecosystem in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for this, how to say, very encouraging reply. Maybe a last question, wrapping up or trying to concise a little the four previous ones. In the frame of the KDT, yeah, the successor of the ECSEL program, we would like to sharpen a little the work plan, and we want to, the governing board would like to come up with a couple of priorities, yeah, a priority setting mechanism. According to your opinion, in this perspective of setting priorities for the new working program, should we keep on investing in our strongholds, or should we, how to say, reinforce our weaknesses, value chain weaknesses? To which extent, what is the priority setting best mechanism according to your ideas?
Very good question. First of all, I want to thank all the great teams and again, participants that have built at the first stage what we call the Common Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, the so-called SRIA. First of all, I want to mention that is important because it has been there in terms of progress, a unified exercise that has been very much built at first step in a bottom-up level. Indeed, your question, I would say, brings this completion on a top-down view. And indeed, I think that also there, we need to find a common exercise. I'm very happy that together with the European Commission and the office, the three associations have pushed to have several thematic workshops to bring a complementary exposure, a complementary, I would say, common brainstorming open to everybody, and with the importance of the invitation of the member states to really bring forward this process of prioritization. I do believe that for some of the stakeholders, before there was more, I would say, a system where each field was getting its own level of funding. And making choices, prioritizing, it's always bringing a more accentuated aspect on one field versus the other. And indeed, governing and making choices will leave some aspects of the SRIA a little, I would say, not completely apart, but not in a prioritization field. The difference indeed that you mentioned in KDT is that there will be slightly more budget on prioritized topics. I think we need to find the right level, I would say, of measures. When there is a clear lack in certain fields that have been commonly shared and where it's needed to advance in terms of research in funding, we need to take the opportunity of prioritization to cover them. But I would certainly welcome that on long term, also in some specific areas, if there is enough money to put in those areas where we are preparing on a more medium term, there should be also the opportunity to do so. It's really to find the common, I would say, governance in the governing board, Future of KDT, where we also understand and brainstorm and share together with the vision of the member states, the Commission, and the private members in a more ecosystem, in a more value chain approach than just saying, oh, this is my concern, and it's not concerning your own customer or your own supplier or your own, I would say, intersection of interests for our continent. It's, I think, this overall process that needs to be done. I gave you one field where I push a lot. We have not yet done, I think, for the last, I would say, program, enough prioritization on the link between digitalization, electronics, and greening. Indeed, to me, this is something that needs to be tackled in a very serious way, not only because the European Commission has given as objective the Green Deal and the and the carbon neutrality by 2050, but because indeed it is an industrial challenge where we need to work all together, semiconductors, applicative fields of different themes in mobility, in health, in smart manufacturing, in smart living, where each piece of the stakeholders together, from the first layers of innovation in neuromorphic, in lithography, to the smart systems, to the software applications, where we all need to work towards the same direction. And probably we will find many other opportunities in call it in open sources, in different other aspects of the I would say this planet of research field that we're engaging, where we need to prioritize. I give one because I think it's very clear to everyone, but there are many others. And indeed, this will be, I would say, the exciting challenge of future KDT.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. Maybe a last question. What would be your wish, your final wish to the future of ECSEL, KDT, and any direct request to the governing board, to me as a director, saying that if there's anything, this is what I really wish for the future, or ask for the future?
Well, first of all, dear Bert, let me tell it to you, to your team, and for all the members of the team that have been now working since almost between 3 and 4 years. It's been, first of all, a real pleasure. I think it's a very interesting and complex system of working with many, many, many stakeholders, but I am enjoying it. I also think that this is a certain unique opportunity for us, also representing private members, to exchange and confront ourselves sometimes with different level of opinions. What I certainly wish for KDT is to get this commonality and this sense of energy, and particularly in the rhythm of the challenges of the private members. I'm thinking particularly on the industrial private members, whatever their size, whether are they spin-off of labs, SMEs, or larger groups, but that there is a common sentiment, particularly from the authorities, whether office, member states, or commission, that they do feel our heart rhythm, that they understand that in many fields of application, the competition is daily, monthly, and that we really need to find the right rhythm with the right resolutions that are not, I would say, engaging us on the wrong side, but in the right one, to recover, even if we will get probably less money than the level of investment in other regions of the world, that the money that we are investing, not only, I'd like to remind, it's always brought by many other private sector, I would say, implications, but that indeed this money goes on the right pace, and that we find the right commonality between public and private. This is my strong wish, is the uniqueness that we can create with the diversity of our continent. Let's take it as a great opportunity and push it really forward with a great energy.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. And I just wanted to maybe summarize this last reply, because I felt it in the answer. We should keep the passion in our community, yeah, and we should be able to bring it from what we have realized so far into the KDT. It was a real pleasure for having you with us today. I appreciated very much the replies to these not so easy questions. And obviously, the whole team and myself, we are looking forward to keep on working with you in the new frame of the KDT. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. I count on everyone and keep on, and surely I am animated by passion. Thanks.
Thank you very much.